Good morning, everybody. Welcome to MarketStream.live. My name is Joseph Cusick with the Cusick Group. Securities offered by Money Block. Here, April 27th. April 24th. I'm like, what? It is Monday, though. April 24th. Welcome, everybody, to On the Open. We're going to take a look at everything in Europe. And boy, all you have to say is France, France, and more France. That's basically what the market's been in anticipation of, is taking a look at the French elections. Now, we saw overnight, over the weekend, that the initial runoff, the first vote on April 23rd, we saw that centrist Macron came out ahead, had over 23% of the vote. He will have a runoff against the right-wing candidate, Marine Le Pen. Now, Le Pen was that nationalist, the candidate that was looking for France to move away from the EU and the EU currency. Well, with Macron, the centrist, basically winning the initial vote, he is currently up about 20% in the polls going into the final runoff to be determining who is president of France on May 7th. So we're going to continue to see over the next couple of weeks a lot of chatter about expectations, and we know about polls. I mean, as we have noted before and everyone has discussed, we saw what happened here in the United States with President Trump and Hillary Clinton. Said there wasn't a chance. Well, he won. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that. But right now, the markets are responding to the upside in Europe. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the DAX, that's the German indice, it is performing very well right now. It is up 3.1%, up 373 points at 12,422. Basically, you're looking at fresh new record highs in the DAX. And what is amazing is not only the move in the DAX, but just the overall resiliency of this market. It bounced off of its 50-day moving average today, now just slicing through on a gap open. So technically, you have a gap back here that needs to get filled on the chart. You can see that very clearly right here. When you look at the chart, now you've got fresh new highs for 2017, right up here in the DAX, and you have a gap. So at some point in time, if there's any headline, remember, they're doing joint exercises in the Japan area, Japan, North Korea area, that's putting that peninsula and China on edge. Yes, there's some enthusiasm about the fact that it looks like Marine Le Pen is not going to be the next president, but hey, they still have to vote, folks. So let's not get too exuberant here. Let's use some common sense. But you're seeing names like autos, like Volkswagen, BMW, Daimler, all moving to the upside. You're seeing banks moving really skyrocketing, not only in Germany, but across the EU continent to the upside. You're also seeing in the UK a 1.83% pop after the French first runoff, the first vote, trading up 130 at 72.44.80. What's most notable here is it looks like it's ready to challenge its 20 and 50-day moving average, but they have pulled back pretty considerably. Biggest laggards throughout this move to the downside was miners and finance in the UK. There was, some, consideration of if France moves out of the EU, how does this all play? Plus the fact while the British have triggered Article 50, they have a lot of work to do over the next couple of years. So with this pullback in the miners, with some stress in the financials, those are the two actual leaders. So they were laggards. They were actually the downside risk in UK. They bounced today. That has the market up. So you're seeing a lot of stocks that in front of this French vote, and just looking at the data in general, were down last week, are bouncing back this Monday, April 24th. Finally, taking a look at France. As you can see, France is up 4.42%. This is the biggest leader across the board in Europe. You see a big gap here above its 20 and 50-day moving average. But hey, the bulls kept control. Let's just look at this. If you look at this picture, there was never a huge sense that the market was at jeopardy. As a matter of fact, it held its 50-day moving average, and it started to hold on its close on Friday in front of the vote on the 23rd, its 20-day moving average. That was telling you that the short and midterm bulls, while they were grinding and were in anticipation of this vote, that there was some vol. The underlyings in the French CAC never got outside of this range. That showed that there was support for the equities, even though Marie Le Pen was looking like she was leading, and that it could be a very, very tight race going into the final vote on May 7th. That now looks like there's a bigger margin of gap between Le Pen, the nationalist, and the centrist Macron. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. This has been an exuberant move to the upside, and it has taken some pressure. One way that you can watch this is watch the 10-year Bund in Germany and its performance. It's been grinding to the downside and then broke through its 20-day moving average, now through its 50-day moving average. And if you compare that with the French 10-year bond, you can see that gap between those two bonds has shrunk considerably. There was a lot of pressure on the French 10-year going into this vote. Now that it looks like we're not going to have this nationalist candidate as the president, that's what the polls are showing. Still have to have the final vote on May 7th. Want to reiterate that. But the bonds have recovered in France considerably. The German bonds, which have been more of the safety trade in front of this, have now been grinding off. They have been in front of this event, as you can see, but still, you're starting to see that price gap now shrink and actually consolidate between the French 10-year and the German 10-year. That is a sign that the bulls are feeling much better about the climate than they were last week. All right, folks, that is it for On the Open in Europe. I will be back at 9:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Central here this April 24th. I'm going to be talking about everything that's going on in the U.S. markets. See you then.